Sometimes us dads, we bottle things up and we express anger more than any other emotion.
And eventually, the pressure is going to build so much that something's going to then explode.
Welcome to the Dad Central Show, the podcast that helps overwhelmed dads conquer stress, build confidence, and become the father their family brags about. Join Drew Solon, a leadership coach and father of five, and Ed Gow Jr., a fatherhood advocate and contributor to the Good Men Project, as we guide you through the journey of fatherhood. We'll show you how to connect deeply with your family, manage your time and energy better, and master tools to become the dad you want to be. Let's get started. Have you ever had your child melt down over something small and you had no idea how to help? So, welcome to the Dad Central podcast. It's a parenting podcast to reduce stress and build confidence in fatherhood. And our show is sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care. Dove Men Care Plus Care believes, man, if I ever get it out, that care is the best of a man, because when men care for themselves and others, there's a positive impact. Drew, what's going on today? The growth is coming back. It must mean it's getting colder.
It is getting colder, but at least the sun's out and I'm still able to get outside and do some things either in the yard, to the house, or just enjoy being outside with the kids. So, and Kristen. So, yeah, it's the growth will be here for a little while. So we'll see what happens. Who knows? Maybe I'll actually grow the full beard this year, and maybe I'll make it through. And winter time, I'll be like, this is a legit beard. Maybe eventually, but who knows?
Excellent. Well, today we're going to be talking about emotional literacy for dads and kids. And just to lay some foundation, I want to acknowledge that most dads weren't taught how to express feelings themselves. Yet the kids need them to model it. So we're going to be setting a theme today about learning emotional literacy. Together can strengthen connection, reduce stress, and help dads raise resilient kids. So we have a definition here that we want to share with the listeners and viewers. Emotional literacy,
Ed, can I pop in quickly?
yeah,
It's also good for dads. So I know our focus is helping raise our kids to be more emotionally literate, but the reality is there's a significant benefit for dads in recognizing, processing, and communicating our emotions in healthy ways. We'll talk more about that. I just want to get in there.
no problem. So I just wanted to share that emotional literacy simply means being able to notice, name, and manage emotions. And research shows that kids who can talk about their feelings are better at problem solving, handling stress, and building relationships. And then we connect it back to dads, where Drew just mentioned modeling this skill is powerful, even if you didn't grow up with it. So, Drew, before we get into we'll actually do three things we're going to chat about today: dad and their own big feelings. We're also going to chat about helping kids with big feelings. And then finally, building everyday emotional literacy habits. So before we get into our three segments, any general comments before we get into it?
I think general comments are that, as an adult, I began to recognize, especially after having kids, I wasn't very good at this. I wasn't very good at knowing what I was actually feeling, and that led to some issues. I also began to recognize that my partner at the time was not very good at it at all either. And so, in terms of if we wanted to have kids who were more emotionally aware, we had a lot of work to do ourselves. So I think awareness really has to start. So if you're listening, my first question to you is, like, honestly, how aware do you think you are of your own emotions, truthfully? And then if you have a partner, how aware of their emotions are they? If you are, that's great. But if you're not, I think it's important that we start there, just awareness. So those are just some quick comments.
So let's first kick it off with our first segment: dads and their own big feelings. What do you have to say about that?
I'm going to start by this to give some credence to why you should even pay attention to this. So, one, if you want to be healthy, you really got to deal with it. Stress and negative emotions can impact your heart, your immune system, and more. It's not about just, dealing with feelings as touchy feely. It's actually about tangibly, measurably improving your physical health. The other thing is, if you want to have good relationships, you have to know and understand what you're feeling to be able to communicate it in a reasonable, respectful, healthy way to the other person you're in a relationship. And you also have to be able to be willing to hear, accept, and communicate empathy or understanding of another person's emotions. It'll result in a better relationship. The other thing is, in terms of our kids, we have, in terms of guiding them, they respond much better when they feel understood. We're going to get into that more. And the other thing is, when you free up, and emotions, I describe them as like energy inside your body. When you process them, that energy is then freed and released so you can actually commit your energy elsewhere to things that matter, that are important. But when you bottle those emotions up, they become like, like that pop can that you shake up. And eventually the pressure is going to build so much that something's going to then explode. And that's typically what we sometimes see when the straw that breaks the camel's back and we explode. And you're like, what just happened? Well, it's because you haven't been dealing with it. So you free that stuff up, you'll have more focus. And that's really important in terms of your ability to show up in a healthier way for your family and support them in developing that. So those are sort of my four things that I think are really important dads need to know on why this stuff really matters. It affects your health, it affects your relationships, it affects your energy and your focus. So it's a really important topic to address.
Yeah, I'll certainly add on to that a little bit in regards to, you know, sometimes us dads, we bottle things up and we express anger more than any other emotion. A number of dads that I've helped over the years, when I first chat with them, anger is their easiest emotion. So if you are in that zone at this present time, take a look and take that self-examination of, your emotions. There's also unspoken emotions like stress, irritability, withdrawal. You need to take a look at that, either their souls or with some help. Take a look at those emotions and see how they can be channeled in a positive way. And a simple tool that we can recommend here is pause, name, breathe. So pause.
Ed, I'm gonna interrupt, and I'm gonna respectfully rename this. And I think stop, drop, breathe is more appropriate. So I apologize. I should have mentioned to you that before. So stop, drop, and breathe is you have to stop everything what you're doing. You have to drop your agenda. Inevitably, there's thoughts or ideas. We want something to happen, and we're driving to make that happen when we are more reactive. So we have to drop our agenda. We have to drop this. I have to achieve this. I have to get this goal. I have to get out the door, whatever it is. You got to drop that agenda in the moment. And then you have to breathe. And it's not just one breath, it's like 3 to 5 deep breaths so that you can shift from reactive, your autonomic nervous system, to I think your sympathetic nervous system. And breathing is one of the only but most powerful ways to do that. So stop, drop, breathe. Sorry to interrupt that way, but I wanted to rename that because I think it's powerful when it's done that way versus what we were going to say.
All right, well, let's move to our next segment about helping kids with big feelings. What are your thoughts on that, Drew?
So if we are able to do what we number one, manage our own emotions, then the reality is that kids, especially up to the age of 7, they're simply ruled by their emotions because they haven't the prefrontal cortex of the brain hasn't actually developed. They don't have logic yet. So their limbic system, their emotional system is how they experience the world. So what we know and understand that, then what it means is that emotions, especially in those early years, is crucial for us to help children understand emotions, to accept all of their emotions, because emotion is neither good nor bad. It's how we behave towards the emotion that children then internalize the message it's a good or bad emotion. They're not. They're just emotions, and we're all human and have emotions. And what they are, it's a sign. It's like the tachometer in your car. Like when all of a sudden you get to the red line, it's a signal that, hey, we're pushing too hard. Just like emotions are a sign, there's something going on with you and to you. And so children must feel psychologically and emotionally safe to express their emotions, to learn to accept their emotions, and then to learn how to communicate their emotions. And the only way they can learn that is from the adults in their life. So this for me is crucial for dads to get. And when we tell our kids, stop crying, or when we tell our kids like you shouldn't be paying, like you shouldn't be doing this, you shouldn't be doing that when they're expressing emotion, we're actually harming them in terms of we're not allowing them to actually safely express emotion. Now, I'm not talking about you let a kid just go crazy and fly off the handle, but you create a space where they can do that, right? And they're not judged, criticized, ostracized, shamed, made fun of. They're supported in learning to regulate because they can't. They need us to co-regulate with them to help them calm down. And once they're calm, once they're out of the fight or flight reactiveness that rules kids because they don't have that, younger kids in particular, then and only then can we start to begin talking to them about, wow, you were really angry at your brother for taking your toy, weren't you? Yes. Okay. And what were you feeling when that happened? Oh, you're probably feeling disappointed, or you're probably feeling scared you wouldn't get it back. Like you help them learn to understand and recognize what was going on for them, and then you teach them, say, okay, well, when you feel scared, what can you do? And you can give them a tool, right? So you help them learn to name their feelings, right? And then once you name your feeling, then you can figure out, well, what do I then do with it, right? So I think these are important elements when it comes to helping kids with our big feelings. We have to, one, accept all of their feelings and not make them feel that they can't have those feelings. And then we have to help them understand them, accept them, and then come up with ways to communicate them in better, healthier ways. I mean, there's a lot more involved, and we've got a resource at the end we'll talk about, which is built from our dad's roadmap, which really talks and goes more into depth about this. So I have to pull myself back and say, well, let's shift and move forward and um, give that resource at the end.
Yeah. Only thing I'd add on to what Drew shared with us is just stressing the importance of empathy. We need to realize that kids need to feel understood first. Understanding is so, so important, not only in our communication with ourselves, with our kids, but just in general. Understanding makes the road so much smoother along the way. And our
And
last
here's the
set,
thing,
go ahead.
as a dad, that can be challenging because toddlers don't make any sense at all.
Yeah.
And most dads are somewhat rational, logical in some way, and we're adults, and so we built that. So, when the toddler throws himself on the floor and like you're giving them the thing that they want, but then they take it and then they throw it and they throw themselves on the floor, you're like, that makes no sense. Or when it's like they want something, but then they do the exact opposite. You know, this is the challenge of fatherhood in terms of we have to regulate our own emotions first, not freak out, not get irate, not feel, and recognize that this is developmentally appropriate for children at various ages that they're not able to regulate themselves. And so, anyways, this is an important learning area. So I'll stop there though. But
All right, let's move on to finally building everyday emotional literacy habits.
yeah, I'll let you start this time since I've been talking too much this time.
No, it's okay. I one of the things, and it's actually really comes up that I do with dads to just in general that I'm helping with is daily check-ins, and just a short little check-in saying, "How are you feeling today on a scale of 1 to 10?" Whether not only with yourself but with your kids, how are you feeling today on a scale of 1 to 10? Simple but powerful question, and for me, anything 8 or below is going, why are you saying that number? 8 and above, I'm good with, but 8 and below, hmm. So, Drew, what have you used or do you use or think about using when talking about emotional literacy habits?
Yeah, there's a dad in our community who he's got a great tool. So the 1 to 10 is fantastic. I think that works especially when kids are a little bit older. Certainly with dads, it can work. But when you have younger kids, like a simple three-color classification: green, yellow, and red. Right? If you want, you could throw a blue in there as well. But simple green, red, and yellow helps children begin to self recognize or have a classification system say, well, I'm feeling really in red right now. And red is like angry, upset, whatever. Whereas green is like happy, joyful. They're content. And yellow is kind of in between. Maybe they're irritated, they're annoyed, they're hungry. Those are the types of things. So to me, age and stage appropriate classification systems, I think, really helps. One of the most valuable resources I found is a book called "What Am I Feeling?" It is by Dr. Josh and Christy Staub, and I read it to my kids from the time I found the book, even up until last year. I'm sure I read it to my kids, and they're 12 now. And so the reality is that it's a great resource, a powerful story, but with simple principles, it really helps children understand, that a feeling is just a feeling and it's not in control of you. And that when you name your feelings, that they lose their power over you. Sometimes there's great, it could be a YouTube video, it could be a movie. But I would say typically the YouTube videos are shorter content, again, depending on the age of your kid. But books right from birth early on have been really great resources for our family, I'd say. But ultimately, at the end of the day, there's a old adage that much more is caught than taught. And so the reality is that the more we model it ourselves in our relationships with, for Kristen and I, or in my relationship with each of the children, we have to model it. They have to see it in action in real life before they'll actually begin to internalize themselves.
Good. That's good. Only thing I would add, especially in the area of emotional literacy habits, is small moments add up. As always, I always say to people, it's the little things that make or break the vine. Because when we reach our big thing, it took a lot of little things to get there. So small emotional literacy moments, things get better and better along the way. And as Drew said, also age appropriate, very, very important. What you use emotional literacy wise with a toddler is not what you use with a 13 or 14-year-old. So it's really, really
It depends
important.
on the maturity of the
Yeah, and mature.
14-year-old.
Yep. There you go.
Uh,
There you
uh,
go.
I say that because sometimes I'm living it. I'm like, the 2-year-old is better than the 15-year-old at certain things. You're like, what? How is that? Anyways, I digress. Oh, I think one thing I'll add Ed, is that you typically end off the show. Remember, give yourself grace. I think in this area, dads, you know, grace is really relevant and important. Both giving yourself grace, your partner grace, especially if this is new to you or something that you're not familiar with or you have never seen modeled. you know, every single step in the right direction is positive. Even if it's 10 steps that don't go that way, if you've taken one out of those 10, that's good too. Just keep taking that one step. Keep taking that one step. And in this area, it will pay off. I can guarantee you that.
All right. As we wrap it up today, we covered three things: dads and their own big feelings, also helping kids with big feelings, and then finally building everyday emotional literacy habits. So our takeaways, remember, one, emotional literacy starts with dads. Notice, name, and breathe through your own feelings.
Stop, drop,
Number
and breathe.
Yeah. And then number two, kids need help putting words to their big feelings. Validation comes before solutions. And then number three, everyday practice builds resilience, trust, and stronger connections between dads and kids. So remember, big feelings aren't the enemy, they're the doorway to connection. And then a challenge for dads this week: try naming one of your own feelings out loud and invite your child to share one of theirs. And then remember that dads don't have to be perfect, they just need to keep showing up. Drew, what resource would you like to share with our listeners and family today?
Yeah, we're going to put a link in because we're building some new resource bundles in our store. They're all going to be digital. There'll be a combination of audios, like we have in our dad's roadmap, plus practical worksheets and a few of additional timeless dad central resources. So just look for those in our dad central resource store. We will put a link to it in the show notes.
Well, as always, want to say thank you for taking the most important thing, your time, to listen or watch Dad Central. And as always, don't just manage your time, manage your energy, and remember to give yourself grace. And we'll chat with you soon. Be well.